Alright, hello, my name is Katerina Costa, and today I'll be presenting on the psychological effects of socioeconomic status on success. So, just what is socioeconomic status? It's a combination of many factors. It's a combination of education, income, and job. Most people consider it to simply be social class, but there's a lot more to it. Also, it's important to note that there's a difference between poor people and those in a situation of poverty. If you're a poor person, that means that you've lived your life poor. If you're in a situation of poverty, you may have grown up in a middle-class family or an upper-class family even, but you happen to be in a situation of poverty and it's temporary. So what are the psychological effects of living in poverty? So people who live in poverty are going to have daily stress, which is negatively going to affect their thinking because they're constantly worried about the problems in their lives and how to solve them. This is going to distract their mind from accomplishing other goals, and it's going to be similar to always having to multitask. So in reality, the brain, you think you might be able to multitask, but the brain isn't really able to multitask effectively. And thus, when you multitask, you are essentially splitting your attention, and neither goal gets accomplished as much as you would like it to. It's also similar to having a bad day every day, and small mistakes can have very detrimental consequences. So, for example, if you have a day, a typical person has a day where they spill coffee on their shirt, and they're late to work, and their car breaks down, all of those things, it's like, oh my gosh, what a day. So if this was in the situation of poverty, that person may not be able to buy a new shirt for work, and they may not be able to afford to repair their car. This is going to cycle to more and more problems because they can't get to work. Also, if they're working a minimum wage job and they're getting an hourly wage, it's going to detract from their wage, causing even more problems. Some more psychological effects. Studies show worries about life correlate with decreased fluid intelligence scores. That means that people who are struggling are going to have their intelligence scores suffer. So, for example, in a study done in India, during times of scarcity, people tended to score 9 points lower on fluid intelligence, which means that they are scoring less when they're struggling in their lives, and if they're not struggling during times, say, of harvest, when food is plentiful and they're not really worried about too many things, their scores are going up. They're also more knowledgeable about how to get what they need for the best prices. However, when they're using that knowledge, it avoids them from being able to use knowledge in other ways, such as if they're interested in science or government, they're not going to focus their time on learning about that. They're going to focus about learning how to get everything they need as cheap as they can. They're also going to focus on their budget, and other things are going to get to the side, which is only going to lead to more problems. So for example, they may focus on their budget, but then they don't have time to help their kids with their homework at night, or they don't have time to read them a bedtime story, which is not good. So, yes. Some more psychological effects. They're also looked down on society a lot, and that means that society is going to stereotype them as lazy and other things like that, and they may not be able to get as far as their potential just because society is negatively stereotyping them. They're also going to face even more challenges than most people because they're constantly worrying about getting, food on the table at night and other things like that. So those challenges are going to accumulate stress on them. They're also not going to get as much brain food as most people. This means that they're going to have an unhealthy diet just to save money. When you go to the grocery store, a lot of times the fruits and the vegetables and other healthy foods are a lot more expensive than simple things like chips and bread and stuff like that. So they're going to buy the cheaper end of the products with more calories just to fill themselves up. The poor are often also misunderstood. Similar to the stereotype, people are going to think, oh, they're just lazy, they're not trying in life. When in reality, they may be working as much as they can on a minimum wage job just trying to make ends meet. They may also develop an external locus of control, and that means that they think that they can't do anything to make their lives better. That would mean that they're going to say, oh, there's nothing I can do, so my life is what it is and I'm not going to try. So that can be very detrimental rather than having internal locus of control where they would think, I can do this, I can get over this, I can get that job, I can keep going. So this whole thing is going to be a cycle. It starts off with the poor household, and that poor household is going to have little food, unclean water, and either little or no school. This is going to in turn lead to diseases and infections, and no energy and skills to work. In turn, that's going to lead to low productivity, and with low productivity comes either little or no income. They're also going to have low self-esteem and no personal control, also known as the external locus of control. They're going to have high childbirth, sick elderly, and that's going to lead to even more dependence, using up the household income, which in turn goes back to the poor household, and the cycle completes and repeats. So some people that went against the grain of poverty. Over here we have Michelle Obama and Pitbull, Bruno Mars, and Oprah Winfrey. They all came from very poor backgrounds and are now multi-millionaires doing very well in their industries. So what can you do to help? What can also be done to help is low-income parent training programs that teach parents how to take care of their kids, budget effectively, and maintain their household properly. There are also child care subsidies so that if a parent has to be working, a child can go to a child care without having to pay for it and have a good environment after school. There are also policies that allow students to remain in a school after a move. So a lot of times poor families move around a lot, and that can be very detrimental to a child if they're consistently uprooted from their school, because then they lose their social lives and any relationships they've established with people around them and their resources. There's also home visits and parenting programs for new parents, again educating them on raising their child properly. There are also free and reduced lunches in schools to help make sure that students get the brain food they need. There are also early Head Start programs, and that gives a chance for preschoolers to go to school for free from low-income families and get a jump start on their education before they go into kindergarten. So just what can you yourself do? If it's you in the situation, you should utilize the government resources available to you, such as free and reduced lunches or tax rebates. You should also work hard in school to earn a scholarship to go to college, because education is key to breaking the cycle of poverty. If you would like to give, you can join an inner-city tutoring program, or you can donate to a food bank or a homeless shelter. And that's all we got for today. That was the psychological effects of socioeconomic status on the brain.